Remember when I said, I have Nintendo Switch 2 hype fatigue? You know what I didn't say in that video? I didn't say, I have Nintendo Direct hype fatigue. And that's great, because guess what? There is an ongoing rumor that we will be getting a final Nintendo Direct for the Nintendo Switch in early February. This rumor comes from Nate the Hate, who leaked to everyone the Nintendo Switch 2 reveal date ahead of time. And he was correct. Because of Nate the Hate's reputation, a lot of people are assuming that we are in fact getting a Nintendo Direct in early February. However, I'll be honest, I am very skeptical about this. Generally speaking, Nintendo does main directs just a couple of times a year. Looking at their history of directs, standard months for directs are September, June, and sometimes February. It kind of depends on the year. So, we are approaching a February window, but here's the thing. We already have a direct confirmed for April 2nd, but that's for the Switch 2 instead of the first Nintendo Switch console. The rumor is claiming that the February Direct will be a Switch 1 focused direct with nothing about the successor at all. I'm not going to say it's impossible that we get a direct for the Nintendo Switch, but I am skeptical for 3 reasons. The first reason is timing. We skipped the typical September slot for a Nintendo Direct this year. If the rumor is true and that the Direct will happen in the first week of February, then we're looking at 2 main Nintendo Directs in 2 months. And that seems very weirdly close together. In the past, Directs were a bit closer in date, but in this era of Nintendo, they do seem to spread them out a fair amount. I feel like a final Nintendo Direct in September would have just made a bit more sense, but I will say that there was maybe some good reason for them to not do that. It could have depended on what they were wanting to show versus what was ready to show, and maybe they just didn't have the right amount of stuff yet. Material. I don't actually know what they would show. Right now, we know of a few titles that they could want to show off, but I don't know if those games are enough to warrant a direct, especially because Nintendo has gotten into the habit of just randomly dropping trailers, particularly on social media or just on YouTube, and not really telling people in advance. They kind of shadow drop them. Future titles include Xenoblade Chronicles X Definitive Edition, Pokemon Legends ZA, and Metroid Prime. While these games are sure to be good, and I don't want to diminish that at all, I feel like a direct that only had these first-party games would not stir up as much hype and excitement as the average direct. They're all known quantities already, and we've seen both Xenoblade Chronicles and Prime 4 fairly recently. I feel like a lot of people like to watch the directs for the game reveals, so I'd hope that if we do have a direct in February, we will see more than just these 3 games. Otherwise, I feel like the direct will likely be padded with third-party titles, some of which will be hit or miss with the audience, as they usually are. Necessity. Why do we need a direct in February and one in April? I've heard some people say that the directs may exist separately because Nintendo wants to market the Switch and Switch 2 games separately, but I don't really know if that's the case. In the past, while there were directs that focused on 3DS games or ones that focused on Wii or Wii U games, there were also directs that had games from either of the consoles. I don't know if we need to have a direct just for the Nintendo Switch when there's already a presentation set to happen in April, one that will likely talk about upcoming games. They could just split the direct into 2 halves, the first half being about the Nintendo Switch, and the second half being about the Nintendo Switch 2. These are the reasons I'm personally skeptical, but I want to acknowledge that we're discussing Nintendo. It may seem like a random time for them to suddenly decide they want to do one final direct for the Switch, but it's entirely possible that they have more up their sleeves than they're letting on. Let's be honest, although people will be rushing to get the Switch 2 immediately, not everyone will. It does make sense for Nintendo to continue to make content for the Switch, at least for a couple years longer. They never immediately stop supporting consoles, although you can make the argument that sometimes they cut support for certain consoles way too quickly. It's also possible that there are more games in the pipeline for the Switch, although I imagine that they are likely games that are smaller scale or things like ports. There's a rumor about a remaster or two in the works, but those rumors aren't really super backed up with any evidence right now. But that also kind of leads me to my main point. Right now, with the information we have, it doesn't really make sense for them to do a direct in February, but that's from the information that we have. There could be plenty we don't know, and I can't predict or guess based off of what I don't know. I'm smart, but I'm not a mind reader. God knows, my life would be easier if I were. Maybe. In theory. I want to propose the idea that while I don't feel like the likelihood of a direct in February is high, I think it's possible we could get a direct mini that focuses on just a couple of games. And then I think we will get a Pokemon Presents on the upcoming Pokemon Day, February 27th, I believe, where they reveal a bit more about Pokemon Legends ZA. That is what I feel is more likely than having two solid directs back to back. However, I could always be wrong. I'm making this video based off of patterns in direct dates and based off of what I personally know. There could just be factors that I'm not aware of. So, to recap, do I think there will be a direct in early February? Probably not, and if there is a direct in early February, I think it will be a direct mini. And then I think later in the month we will get a Pokemon Presents. I think the next full Nintendo Direct will be the one in April. However, I acknowledge that I may not be right, and that's okay. I kept getting asked this question though over and over again by people if I thought that there would be a February Direct, and I really wasn't sure at first. My initial reaction was absolutely not, because of the one that had already been announced in April. But the more I thought about it, the more I thought, you know, maybe it is possible. Nintendo is kind of known as being the kings of left field. That's what a lot of people say, is they just kind of do whatever they do. So it's entirely possible that you could look at patterns of how they've behaved in the past and they just decide to break the pattern one day. And then it's just like, well, guess that's a thing now. I really debated on making this video, but I kind of wanted to sort out my thoughts and kind of get them all on quote unquote paper, so to speak. Let me know if you think there's going to be a direct. I'm curious to see what you guys think. I've seen a lot of people say yes, and I've seen a lot of people that don't seem convinced at all. Of course, now that I've put my thoughts onto paper and I've said that I don't think that it's likely we're going to get one, it's definitely going to happen now. I've jinxed it. I know how these things work. Sorry for the shorter video this week. I did plan to release a different video entirely, but again, I just wanted to get this one out, and I've had horrible headaches for the last couple of days, so I wanted to do something kind of smaller than the larger video that I'm working on, but I hope to have that one out next week. Or maybe before next week. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see. It is a big video. I really need to hire an editor. For more gaming discussions, tier lists, and lore talks, feel free to hit the subscribe button. Like the video if you like it. It does help me. But most importantly, have a good day. And let's get ready to laugh at this video in a couple of days when I'm inevitably proven wrong. See ya!